Hello, everyone, and here, community lead at Livepeer Foundation, and welcome to Watercooler. This is our first Watercooler after the summit, so we're getting back into the regular rhythm of things now that folks got a week to rest after traveling around the world. For the network, we saw a drop in fees to 11,444 last week, and our participation is continuing to rise steadily. We're now at 49.4%. And again, of course, the inflation rate is ticking up because we are below that 50% participation rate. So let's try to continue to push on getting that back above 50% mark. So we don't have any updates from Foundation today. As folks have mentioned, Rich and Rick are both getting a nice vacation. So wishing them that super restful. As for us, we have a few topics today. And I was also sick for a week, so there have been some disturbances in some of the cadences. So I appreciate folks sticking around and not being too perturbed by that drop in kind of Discord overview stuff on the announcements. But that should be starting back up this and next week, back to the regular cadence. Only updates for me are I'm working on a new virtual event strategy at Foundation, so that will be starting to be implemented soon, and also some other exciting things around community growth strategy that will be dropping and starting to be implemented early next month. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm really hoping to start some new interesting campaigns, especially with Mehrdad, who's joined on Foundation, not Foundation, excuse me, on the Transformation SP. He's really, really excited to get some, builder inbound, community growth, and getting, questing and all these other things get started so we can, finally have a strong funnel from top of funnel to bottom of funnel in our ecosystem. All exciting stuff. Okay, first up we have let's go to Speedy Bird first on the Cloud SB and video metrics. Take it away.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. So, if you hadn't seen it, the Cloud SBE expanded the metrics tester. As you recall, about a year ago, we had a proposal to support AI jobs in an open source tester, given the fact that transcoding was the only testing that was being done. And we had made a number of various updates, including building a new tester from scratch for AI jobs. These are non-video jobs, right? These are just supporting all the various inference endpoints that were supported from LLM to speech to text, image to image, text to image, things like that. And that also included Explorer updates and then API updates for the metrics that you pulled in through Explorer and other tooling that other people are using the ecosystem. And that funding ran out. Despite that, however, we went in and we now implemented support to send videos as a test to the endpoints running the stream diffusion jobs. We ran into a couple issues which I highlighted in a forum post, kind of put us in a spot to get some feedback from the community about where do we go with this tester. But as it stands at the moment, it is posting stats to the Explorer. And one of the key things I wanted to walk away with today, other than feedback on just the general concept of the tester and testing the jobs, and kind of the next steps, which I can talk a little bit about in a moment, is whether or not we want to keep having that stuff live. Because right now we don't really have, as a community, a process through which we can promote these things, push them up in the community, get them voted on and passed. And I know that governance is an issue that the foundation's looking at and looking at improve certain things. So this may have kind of it's going to precede all that, but certainly what we can do if the general consensus is, hey, it's a great step forward, but it's not where we want to be publicly with these the tester, given the limitations you guys uncovered, then we can roll it back, at least in the sense that we're not posting the stats to Explorer, and we can keep running the tests and make them available through the SPE's website. So again, just to recap here, we created a capability now for the tester to test live video stream diffusion based jobs and score those. and that comes up with a composite score based on a number of parameters, and then ultimately making those stats visible through APIs and Explorer. And we want to determine where do we go next with this tester. Happy to talk a little bit about the challenges and whatnot, but I'll pause quickly there to see if anyone has any questions off the bat or feedback.
I do. Maybe wait, do I have feedback?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was gonna message you, Speedy, which I still am, but thank you for the update. I think one thing that would be great on the foundation side would be in situations like this, if you have like bullet points or even if it's like a doc page or something, anything that just like basically documents what you just shared. Because then again, we could share things that you think is relevant to share with the community on socials as well.
Yeah,
And
if you look at the chat, there's a link there that Mike posted that contains a detailed summary and breakdown with some bullet points on, what we uncovered in the process.
which chat specifically?
This water cooler chat.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, and usually, Lizzie, just for your info, most of that kind of synopsis is in the forum.
Yeah, and that's the link. It's a forum post that I made last week.
I personally think on my end for the leaderboard, I think it is helpful. Um, at least when we're onboarding people and they're trying to pick on, hey, how do I evaluate an orchestrator? I think it can be helpful, like optically for that reason. Um, but I'm not sure if, from a large ecosystem perspective, like where you want to move in a different direction. Um, I don't personally have an opinion there, but I thought I'd just share that I do think it's good we have some sort of scoring um, paradigm.
Yeah, I think I agree. It's important that we have some visibility into what the orchestrators are capable of. Um, And that's a pretty loaded statement. I think at a minimum, at this moment, it's frames per second. And I believe that's what I understood when I asked Pavel about it from Inc. about what are the key metrics that they're tracking. It was frames per second of output. So we measured latency and frames per second and can put it into a composite score with a highly favoring or weighted towards the frames per second. But I think that those, certainly there are some limitations just looking at those two angles, and could be other metrics. But at a higher level, um, I'd say that the scores that are coming out of the system right now are are not predictable in the sense that if the orchestrator is busy, which many are right now doing these live video jobs, we can't get a test in, and that will negatively impact the test score without us, further detecting that the orchestrator is busy at first, which is a minor improvement. We could certainly do that, but then it leads to other nuances, which the Explorer currently only shows the past 24 hours of test data, and it only has visibility. The rendering of the metrics are still kind of stuck in the transcoding world. So the numbers then have to be kind of shoehorned into certain labels. So that led us to, noting a number of different issues, um, which I'm identifying just a couple here with these metrics that, I was a little concerned that it doesn't reflect accurately at this point, the consistently the performance of an orchestrator over time versus just, who were we able to test in the last 24 hours successfully versus who we were not. So if somebody's busy, they're getting penalized and they shouldn't be. And if you're not busy and not getting work, well, you have a great score, but that doesn't really reflect how, you are performing long term for the network. So you can hear there's some nuances here, but I think generally the need is to move beyond just job testing from a remote perspective. It's great for verifying that orchestrators are doing what they say they are doing, but at the same time, like we did in the hackathon during the summit, I think there is a need to augment that data with data that's reported by the orchestrator and the gateway that's independent of testing, so we can cross-reference this data and get a very clear, consistent picture of performance and capabilities on the network.
Yeah, and oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead,
just
Brad.
wanted to chime in and say I just wanted to chime in and say like I completely agree. I think this work is super important and should definitely continue. Seeing a single AI performance score in the Explorer is great because it can help delegators make effective decisions about who's helping the network and who to stake towards. But I actually think we should think bigger than just that one number in the Explorer and think about how important it is if we can actually report on the Black network and say, you know, uh, what workflows or job types are available, like how are individual nodes performing on each of those, how much scale are they offering, and what price uh, does it cost to get a job in on the network when there's competition for jobs. So maybe even thinking bigger and more independently than just the Explorer in terms of like, can we establish all that fact-based evidence about how scalable and cost effective and performant the network is on these AI jobs seems really important and like aligned with this work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we have so many data points that we would like to collect. And I think there's tons of data inside the orchestrators and gateways that could help provide a better picture of costs and actual infrastructure that's deployed on the network. So definitely something we think is important from the cloud SPE. And we definitely are going to continue beating on this because metrics and insight drives many decisions, maybe not just staking. There's a lot of other decisions too. I mean, from an orchestrator perspective, what models to run, how much to charge. There's a variety of questions that I think with the right data, we can start to give those insights to people that are going to make decisions surrounding the protocol. So I'm with you 100%, Doug.
Yeah, and I think, how I frame it in my mind when I think about it is the performance leaderboard on Explorer is nice. It's got some problems, but frankly, from a Livepeer as a solution provider, it doesn't quite hit a mark to any customer other than maybe the orchestrator trying to assess where they stand and maybe a delegator, but having a broader view that says, do I trust using Livepeer services? What services can I use? And what is the advantage for using those services and doing so in a reliable way would be more in line with kind of like the dashboard I'm hearing being talked about, where there's a broader view of Livepeer as a solution rather than Livepeer is scoring an individual's performance. Not to say that that piece isn't important, but it is, I think, more secondary to a broader push to say Livepeer is ready for you to use today, and here's what we have to offer.
Yeah, and I think too part of the conversation here as well is the Explorer RFP, and as that team starts working there, I haven't heard any updates about it myself yet. But as they're onboarded, I assume that will happen after Rick gets back, or maybe my dad, you have some thoughts there if you want to come up. But that I think is going to be key in the conversation around how do we even want to visualize the data, right? Because the data is good, but if we're not visualizing it in a way that's digestible to whether it be the orchestrator, persona, or our delegators, or just the general Web3 audience, it's like kind of we're not going to get as much value out of the work we're doing to kind of like understand the data that's happening on the network.
Yep, agreed. And I don't know if we answered the question in the chat here specifically. I know, Doug, you're saying, how do you guys reconcile performance scores in Explorer with the data shown in the Grafana dashboards? So, as I mentioned, we're using a composite score of latency and frames per second output. So my understanding is that the Grafana dashboards pretty much heavily relying on FPS as the main panel in that dashboard. There are others around: container, idle, slow orchestrator, things like that. I think those would, so the frames per second is caught, and I think right now it's configured to be 80% of your score, and the other 20% is latency. So that should cover slow orchestrators, and orchestrators without, with long latency. That may not just be the orchestrator, but the pipeline itself that's running. Um, so how can you correlate them one to one? No, you wouldn't be able to see the score and correlate it one to one because of those weightings, but you certainly can see a correlation where the higher scoring orchestrators in the dashboard should correlate to the ones with a higher FPS in Grafana. And then I'm going to finally put an asterisk on that, which is as long as we can get a test through to that orchestrator. Um, because if we can't get a test through to them, then we can't score them correctly.
Yeah, thanks.
So
Sounds good. And glad to hear that they're largely correlated. And then, yeah, good explanation on if a node has a 0 score on the Explorer, but they're actually showing up in Grafana, it's probably more because of that ability for you to get a test to them.
yeah, and you also see some of the failures. Like we tried to intelligently classify errors as best we could when running the test to determine whether it's something they should be penalized for or not, aka is it infrastructure, our gateway, our media server, FFmpeg network connectivity, or is it, hey, the orchestrator is slow or it's capped and we couldn't really, or they're busy, and we don't want to necessarily penalize them when they're busy, but if they can't, they're not busy, but they can't produce the right results in a timely fashion, then we penalize them. So we had to make some judgment calls there. And as far as next steps, putting in support for the gRPC APIs or some other APIs on the gateway to be able to do better analysis of the remote orchestrator we're testing can certainly help us get better scores. And that also aligns with the Foundation's roadmap. But I do want to stress ultimately that sending remote test jobs is insufficient because, again, if people are busy and we can't get work to them to test them within a 24-hour period or a period that we determine is the right period to aggregate results for a dashboard, then orchestrators who are getting a lot of work because they're actually performing very well or have very good stake are going to have lower scores than those who don't, and we don't want that. So we do have some thoughts on how to improve upon that with a broader push towards decentralized metrics, which Mike and I are kind of crafting the thoughts there that we put forward to the community for some feedback as to potential next steps for us to work on. And that work would not just be in a tester arena, because a tester long term would need to survive. Because if you're not getting work, we still need to figure out, are you capable? And if you're not getting work, you're not going to be doing any decentralized metrics from your orchestrator. So there's a bit of chicken and egg there, but we have some solutions around those. Otherwise, I think there's another here, different models having different outputs, which is a point that Navigara brought up, or Karalak brought up in the Discord. Say, hey, look, I don't think it makes sense for us to come up with a standardized metric for jobs because every job is different, especially once people start doing BYOC. And while that does make sense on the cuff, I would argue that we know what these jobs are supposed to do, what an LLM should do. It should produce a certain amount of tokens per second, right? Are you judging the capability of the inference model itself? No, I don't think that's our job. Our job is to say, is it performing? You, as a user of a model, you should already know, is that model going to meet your needs? And if it's not, and you need to do BYOC and build your own custom solution, that's where we're planning the ability to extend the tester's capabilities so that you can plug in your own scoring algorithm for your BYOC. So when you publish your container and say, this is my pipeline for the network, we want to use it, you can also publish a scoring algorithm that the community can review and determine if it's worth folding into the metrics pipeline. But again, that's early stage kind of a read into some of the things we've been thinking about there. But ultimately, I think we can measure different models' output and still have it appropriately scored, and give people a good understanding of what the capabilities are for orchestrators that have various capabilities that they're offering on the network. So I don't know if there are any further questions or thoughts on that before
Well,
we.
just one more like fine point to what you're saying is that the job tester is sending equally sized jobs to every orchestrator. So even though in the real world jobs come in of different shapes and sizes and different loads on the GPU, but our tests are going to be consistently sized across each orchestrator. So even though there may be variance in the way customers use it, we still have an equal, consistent baseline that we use for our tester that is applied to all orgs equally. So I think we can get consistent results as long as we can get those test jobs in. And we've seen that with the batch jobs, right? If test code are flowing through, we actually see, you know, aggregate scoring that occurs across orgs, and we do see slower orgs with slower GPUs or slower CPUs even, having an impact on their scoring. And if their latency goes down because they're too far away or what have you, we can see those scores as well. So I think there's definitely room for improvement, but I think this still, as a practical measure, is one of those measurements that we still think are critical going forward that we will need to take.
So I don't hear any other comments at the moment. So I do want to kind of mention as well that when we look at the current state of AI jobs on the network and testing them and some of the issues we ran into and how we move forward, we think it's a comprehensive approach that needs to be taken to improve not just testing, but the visibility. So we talk, the decentralized metrics component is essentially a piece where all node operators would be publishing metrics to a central stream that can be pulled down and consumed by anyone on the network or any person, even not on the network, but in general that wants to pull the data in and do analytics on it. We've been talking, Mike and I, internally about doing a data lake that we would then consume all that data into and provide APIs for the community to kind of look at and test and poke and prod within reason. Obviously, we can't have you guys bringing down our cluster. And then that ties into the tester because the tester should rely on that as well to get scores in addition to sending remote test jobs. And then as part of the tester, we found problems that led to issues with the service registry, the selection algorithm, and some other pieces that we think would need to be updated in order to provide a solution that would make it easier to get the visibility we want, provide everybody the metrics that they need and are looking for. So it would be able to ultimately solve a number of problems, not just ones that are centered on this tester theme, even though that's kind of the tip of the iceberg here. So given what we said, I know it's a lot. You'll probably hear more from us in the coming weeks. Mike and I are going to keep iterating over this and would appreciate feedback if others want to provide it in the forum posts we made on the tester alone. Follow up me directly in a DM or Mike, and obviously we'll be posting some other thoughts and stuff as we move through our process here of trying to tackle this all to the ground and come up with a solution that we think benefits Livepeer to make it more usable, more visible what's going on, and basically continue to democratize access to it. So, with that said, I don't really have any more to add on this topic, but happy to, take some more questions or comments if there are any others here.
Yeah, please update, put your comments on the forum post itself. I think there's a record there that we want to keep track of over time, and we'll continue, as he said, to iterate on it. So if you have comments, it's welcome, in DMs or in the chats as well. But I think please go to the forum and add your comments there. I think that's where a lot of the conversations are persistent and they last for a long period of time. And then the last thing I was going to say is that, he mentioned a data lake. This is not like an individual thing. This is something that, as we said, is part of the Cloud SPE's mission all along, is that, you shouldn't have to run infrastructure to be able to participate in Livepeer. And having a data lake in which, non-technical users or people that may not know how to prepare and analyze this analytics data, giving them a place where they can go in and look at it. And you'll see some of that data there today, where you can look at the orcs and their stake and how many tickets they won, how much the network's paid out to which orcs over the last weeks, months, years. I mean, we have all the blockchain data there, but we're going to pair the blockchain data with some of this decentralized metrics around performance and capacity and jobs on the network. And I think having that in one data lake that anyone can go in and consume, I think is a critical thing that should be publicly available. Now, if individual gateways or orchestrators want to consume their data themselves and prepare their own dashboards and their own data lakes, that's fine too. And again, everyone will have their own needs, and that's the point of having open access to all of the data, is that you should be able to do these things. But Cloud SBE wants to make it easy for anyone to get in here and look and participate. So we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, and I want to plus one the accessibility. From a growth perspective, if we do want to get more traction and more people to engage, we have to lower the bar of that engagement. And if it's still super complicated or super technical, we limit our audience in terms of like how many people can meaningfully engage with any sort of on-chain data. But if there's no other comments, we can move on to the summit. If anyone has anything they want to share, any highlights, anything that you took away from the meeting, the summit. I'm interested because I didn't get to go, so I'm really curious to see how it went. So you can give me even more FOMO.
Well, I can just jump in right off the bat and say, you know, obviously meeting all the people was probably the highlight of the event. I think everybody's awesome, and what they're doing and what their role is in the network is all unique. And I think getting it to see those faces and hear everyone's story is probably the highlight for me. But I think something that I didn't think, you know, I was unaware of perhaps, is that some of the creativity around a lot of the projects that people are working on, hearing a lot of the talks and the individuals speaking. But then at the end, at the hackathon, there was some really slick hacks that people did in such a short period of time that it's like, this is where I think the most optimistic parts of the network come out, is where looking at these projects and these potential use cases that are awesome and that are unique and one of a kind to what is happening in Livepeer. I think that's something that left me at least thinking about more possibilities of the future and how things looking pretty good for Livepeer as long as we can continue to build and deploy. But the hackathon, I mean, again, I don't, if folks aren't aware, we probably could talk about what they were, but there were definitely quite a few of them that were just off the wall cool.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear about them. I haven't gotten the update on what each one was. So if Mike, you want to share, I'm down to hear what you thought was
Yeah,
the coolest.
I don't have the whole list. I think maybe we can go back to, I have some pictures and stuff that I took and I could probably post something, but I thought the one that stood out was like this concept of a dream room. And it basically was like a game, like a world model they kept referring to, where you're immersed in an AI generated world, like everything's generated around you and you're like navigating through this world. And one of the hackathon ideas was the concept of dream rooms, and you would walk into the room as a game player, like using your controller or your keyboard like you were playing any other game, and you would walk into the world, and like the one room was an ice room and the other room was fire. Everything was on fire. You walk in and everything's burning, things are on fire. You're on fire. Like everything's on, the bed's on fire. I mean, it was like, it was, kind of, sensationalized a little bit, but it was cool just to see that I'm walking through an AI generated world and the environment and everything around me is being transformed in real time through AI, and being able to personalize and customize those experiences in a video game. I mean, this is stuff that's usually pretty static, and these are the things that in traditional games they're not done this way. But having it generating the world around you and the environment around you, as well as personalizing it and customizing it, I thought that was like, I just like sat back and was like, whoa, man, this is crazy. But it's one of those things where it's the future. It's the stuff that we're going to see in video games as they continue to be built this year and beyond.
That does sound really cool. Yeah, I'm really interested in like I love video games. I don't know if I've talked much about it here, but I really like video games, and I'm really curious to see kind of how that technology evolves. And it's cool that we could be on the cutting edge. I mean, I guess we are on the cutting edge of real time video AI. So it'll be interesting to see how you know game developers utilize that technology to kind of allow users to or gamers to participate in the world building. Especially with, I'm not sure if anyone ever has played like Dungeons and Dragons or that type of thing, but I especially imagine real time video AI matching really well with like user creativity in terms of like Dungeons and Dragons and like creating your own story. I've always loved that vibe. Lizzie, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, I know like Joseph was asking like who, because I remember there were like three people that might have had like demos for something similar but different. It could have been the Marcos, the team Marco. One thing I did want to share is that I am doing my best to try and collect all the information on things that were presented so that we can kind of like package that and post, especially for people that just weren't there who might want to know what happened with hackathons and just to dive a little bit deeper. So bear with us. It's some didn't have like actual presentations, it's just demos. So we're gonna have to like work through what that will look like in terms of presenting it. But I do think that it's interesting because like when I think about just AI, I saw a video somebody posting about like the evolution of just AI in general, like in terms of video AI. And I think the video that was first sensationalized was when Will Smith was eating the spaghetti and it just looked real choppy and real like,
I've seen this.
and then now they're kind of like they're jumping through the iterations of how it has changed through different companies, obviously working on that. And now we're obviously at Sora, where it's super realistic. Of course, with the trained eye, if you're looking for things, you'll still find stuff. But we will get to a point where that's like so crisp, you won't even like the millennials and the Gen Zs will all be tripped out. And then when you think of like video, real time video AI, you have to start at a certain stage and then it starts to like slowly evolve and then get super crazy realistic. So it's going to be interesting to see that journey and like how we document that as well. So yeah, just want to share that.
Very, very cool. Um, any other highlights from other folks who were there? And feel free if you don't want to come up on stage, drop it in chat. I can also read that, and it's open on the recording, so I can capture it too.
I'd probably just echo what Mike was saying. I really like that Dream Rooms concept. It was something I've been tooling around with before actually coming, and then to see it thrown together in such a short period of time, I was really impressed. I don't know 3JS very well, which is what was used in combination with the Stream Diffusion, but it was really cool. I mean, this idea you're in a room and you have a certain amount of time to get out, and then as the time runs down, the infrastructure, the stream becomes more unstable, and which is really cool. That was such a great idea. Uh, so I'm actually would love to see if they had that and they open sourced it and see kind of what they how they put it together. Obviously, in such a short period of time, I imagine there's game mechanics and physics that they weren't quite ironed out. So I don't expect it to work right out of the box, but it was definitely a very cool proof of concept because ultimately, it's up to your imagination what you can do with the AI inference stuff, and it's not just hey, just this one endpoint. It's what kind of pipelines can you put together, mix and match different pieces. And I know that when I brought up this metrics thing in the Discord the other day, now Navigar was saying, oh, well, all these other inference endpoints, we don't need them anymore, LLM and, the segmentation models and things like that. But I actually disagree. I think they are necessary for a full, robust pipeline. And then that you could use Livepeer for and build the product you want if you want to just orchestrate the APIs rather than just build your own BYOC. So anyway, I know I kind of drove off in a tangent there, but I think it's really cool. It's so many different things you can do because if you think about the gameplay, it doesn't need to do the whole thing. People talk about world models, which I'm not a fan of the term, but if you think about it, you might be inclined to say, "Oh, I just write a prompt and I have a game." Well, not necessarily. You might want to have part of your game, like the background or the environment or certain components in it, rendered by a given pipeline, and another portion of it rendered by different pipeline, and have cutscenes in between that are pipeline, and sometimes pipeline plus your webcam. So I think that the possibilities are really allow for a lot of creativity, and that's really what's going to unlock how valuable these capabilities are. Is really how far can you push your creative self to build something here. Games is like a a huge space to be creative, so it's really cool. I really like that one a lot.
Awesome. Just an aside, I saw, I'm interested in like, the implications of AI, especially as we are working on it here at Livepeer. But one thing that I thought was interesting, we were saying that, a lot of AI is a window into the past. Because, it's using old data. It's not necessarily updating. I mean, maybe there's some models that are, using like real time data feeds to update themselves. I don't know if that exists today, or at least at that speed. But I think that that perspective offers a very different paradigm to kind of the most common narrative now, where it says A is going to replace everything, which I think is kind of like lackluster and lazy, in my opinion. Um, for me, I think AI is going to enhance people's ability to do things, as all technological revolutions in human history have been. So I'm really excited to see how people pair with AI technology, whether it be real time video AI or otherwise, to enhance and to build upon the future, using their creativity, which AI currently does not really have a good grasp on. Oh, I should have been in Portugal. Oh well.
Well, there's one other aspect of the summit that I wanted to highlight. I don't want to hog the stage, so if anybody wants
Hog
to get
away,
up, I
Mike,
will sit
please. There's
down.
no,
I was gonna say I'll sit down and shut up,
no
but
hog, hog, hog,
for
hog.
now, well, the one thing is I was lucky to have a chance to really sit down with Ben and Joseph, Rick, a lot of the people from the foundation that, maybe in some Discord chat I saw a comment here or there, but like I really had a good conversation with a lot of the folks that are formed and are part of the foundation. And I think it's really good to see that these people are real. They're not, they're experts. They come from backgrounds in which stewarding these types of projects and helping move the vision forward are critical. And I was suspect at first that, I didn't meet these folks, so I don't know them. And, with every conversation I have, every interaction I have, and the more I read about what they're doing, the more I see the passion that comes behind the people, I realize that, these are the right group of people to go forward with. Where, a lot of people probably even said that in their own mind, like, how do we know that this group makes sense? And there's, Rick was a former, coming from Livepeer, like,
Oh no, did we lose Mike?
Looks like it.
We did. We got wrecked.
Rug.
We lost him mid-compliment.
I
That's
know.
the worst
Yeah,
time to lose
Worst.
someone.
am I back?
Okay,
Am I
you're
back?
back. Continue the praise.
No, my walking on my watch ended up talking to me, telling me how long of a mile I've been walking. So it took over my microphone, which is kind of weird. I never saw that before. But
Oh
anyway,
man.
what I was saying was, I think everybody, probably had some sort of skepticism about whether or not the team assembled for the foundation were the right members, or could it be different, or is there somebody more skilled? And I think the backgrounds, especially when I talk to Joe and Ben, they are like the real deal. Like these guys are coming from backgrounds in which they had to succeed, and they've enhanced and the projects that they've worked on. They made things from nothing and helped build these things out. So I think looking at the group of people that are there now, and in the manner in which they're conducting themselves, and the vision that they have, it definitely left me not guessing or being a skeptic anymore, and more of an advocate and a proponent for the ideas they have. So I think if folks can get the chance to get into the ear and start talking to these people, get in there, see what drives them, see what, the kinds of things that are motivating them as they look to steward Livepeer going forward. And I think we're going to see some big things over the next 12 months. So it just, at least that was the takeaway I had outside of, just the general stuff we talked about.
Yeah, and go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, I just wanted to say from our side on the foundation, everyone that was there, equally, I think the takeaway was that just the strength of Livepeer is the community and the people that make it up. We really came away really invigorated, and those in-person relationships were just like super useful. And I'm really pleased that some of the work that we've done so far has landed. And like you say, there's a lot more to go. And with that in mind, for anyone that is curious about what's coming, or what we've been doing, or who we are, we're always here. We're on the calls. We're on the Watercooler every Monday. On Fireside, you can catch updates. Over the last 6 months, we've posted a lot on the forum, and we read every comment. We really want to make sure that everyone who has an opinion is heard, and we take every comment, question really seriously, and that's continues, whether IRL or online. So yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out, and if there's ever anything we can do to answer your questions, we're here.
And another note for me, I know it can be intimidating, especially at like Watercooler or just in general, to ask your questions. But I really want to encourage people, especially as we are kind of progressing and the foundation is getting its feet under it, self, that you ask the hard questions. You come with a more Socratic seminar type vibe. If anyone, at least when I was in college, that was big, and I really enjoyed it. But part of this whole journey, and I'm sure this happened at the summit as well, because I was in the early process of like developing it, so that was an influence there. Was to have conversations, right? To have conversations about everything we're doing here, why it's important, how we get further, how we progress along. Um, Water cooler, it can be, I mean, we have our topics and we talk about it, but seriously, like if people have off questions, off comments, just ideas they had, I encourage that open conversation. And that's the strength of decentralization. That's the strength of kind of what we're doing here, is so that we can, ask the big questions towards each other, and in the good spirit of Socratic seminar type vibe, right? Actually engage meaningfully with each other and progress this technology forward. Any other thoughts on Summit?
So my oldest daughter is allergic to finned fish, which is a weird thing, right? Like most people think of allergic to fish as like shellfish and stuff. So we don't eat a lot of fish in my house, which is a bummer because I love fish. I have to tell you, I'm done eating fish for a while. I have to go in there. So I'm good for about a couple months now, so I'm back to normal here. No needs on my side. So I appreciate that, getting my fish fill.
Amazing. Okay, well, if there's no other thoughts on Summit, I'm sure Lizzie will be getting more content out, and I am sure that I'll hear more about the different conversations that happened over, as I'm back and people come back from vacation. But yeah, Chang, I wanted to, excuse me, Chang, I wanted to give you some space to give updates on the summit that you're doing for Daydream, on that side of things.
Hey, you're calling me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My thinking, my observation is in the summit, like, it's probably very first time for me personally, the whole community, from the operators, from the engineering, from the SPs, from foundations, all coming to one room, one place. And, we actually work together. I mean, many people connected through the hackathon, never connected before. And I see lots of great ideas, coming up, during that. And Daydream Summit is obviously just, one portion of it. But I'm deeply, inspired by, the potential, the Livepeer and Daydream community as a whole. Whenever we come together, share the ideas, do things together. I think, that's something I find, extremely rewarding and exciting about this mission. Yeah, it will be my 2 cents. Yeah, Daydream, we did lots of the sightseeing, sightseeing in Lisbon, which is a very beautiful place, and we had some small size of the workshop and breakout as well, particularly on moving the project called Scope. If you heard anything about it, if you haven't heard it, I encourage you to go to the Daydream Discord, and there's a particular channel on that. You actually can go and the Scope is a local tool enable us to basically bootstrap any emerging new models, real world models, and to make that as easy as possible to be tried out by anyone who wants to do it, and also give us the leeway to bring those models into the decentralized network as well, because behind the doors the architecture is the same. So we're already using that tool to launch the Stream Diffusion V2 and also the long leave as well. I think there's a couple more on the roadmap to come out as well. So, and once these tools are or these models are released through the scope, get the initial feedback from communities, and Daydream engineer team will bring some of them in Power orders to the cloud, and to enable those tools to be more accessible in through the decentralized infrastructure. So we did lots of discussion in terms of how to execute that. What is potential areas we should explore with communities using that tool. So and invite you guys to look at it, try it out. It's super easy to try it out. If you don't have the GPU, you can use the cloud service like Rumple to try things out. And so far, I think that's probably the easiest open source tool. You can try out those emerging real world models. Basically takes you less than 5 minutes. I think that if you do that and try it out, you have any ideas and suggestions, you can share that with Daydream teams, and I'm more than happy to bring your ideas forward in that as well. Okay, that would be something I would like to share. And of course, if you have any questions and things like around the daydreams, what daydream is going after, what we're working on, and what could be the impact on the option. So we already committed to provide a weekly, updates, to the actually it started last week or 2 weeks ago already. So you probably already see that, and we have a roadmap is published on the web page as well. But we're always approachable. So I'm here on every Watercooler call, so you can direct questions directly to me, and I will sit in the fireside as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We do have we had a few other topics, but I'm trying to box us into an hour. So Doug, Define, or Lizzie, did you want to really want to talk about your subject, or are we good to close for today? Let me know.
All good on my end.
All right. Thank you so much. I think Lizzie, you're probably okay, and um, yeah, let me just see.
I did have a quick question on the Daydream
Please
stuff.
go ahead.
Uh, as far as GPU supply, are things looking good there, or is there still a need for more capacity, like imminently, or is it okay, yeah, we'll need more capacity with the anticipated growth, but right now, we have capacity, we have buffer, it's okay, and we just want to keep seeing the trend grow or whatnot.
Speaking for today, we're okay. And we did assessment, particularly for the real-time video AI summit, traffic as well. We are probably just okay with probably 30 to 40% of the buffer room. But we're expecting, with this real-time video AI summit and a couple of those, the go-to-market efforts, probably in the next month or two, we will, need more GPU capacity, into the network.
Cool.
But
Yeah,
we will share that learning and news as well, if anything come out, because we just put analytics into the place to learn the, this, traffic growth patterns, through this various different, go-to-market
yeah,
activities. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and like you said, keeping those updates will help us orchestrators make sure that the capacity is there, and you guys have what you need.
Yeah.
So appreciate it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hen.
Oh no, you're good. Again, it's not like there's no rush. It's not like I have like somewhere to be right now. It just usually they're meeting that foundation house. So I'm trying to get us used to kind of keeping it within an hour. But Define, you said you really want to talk about inflation, so feel free to unmute and share your thoughts.
Hey guys, so regarding inflation, during the summit, we discussed with other orchestrators and network participants about inflation. My personal opinion regarding inflation was positive and that it is something which will come down. But I have changed that opinion after looking at this more broadly, and I can understand why a lot of orchestrators look positively on inflation. I still believe that we have a couple of options for the future so that we can change the way that inflation is being distributed without harming the revenue of the orchestrators. So, an idea regarding inflation that we can also discuss, I'm sure that the foundation um, is already looking at how to handle it, is that instead of going with a lower threshold on a leap, we can instead hike the treasury cap and change the distribution so that it goes more towards the treasury and cut from the inflation rewards. Now, this does not solve anything as it is, but if we create a distribution pipeline from the treasury to people who want to incentivize bring your own container work, either either new tries, um, new application, new user case, or old user cases, then we can cushion the hit to the rewards of the orchestrators, which can remain largely the same, but we're also introducing capital, which is working more efficiently, because the current situation is that orchestrators are being paid from the inflation so that they can offer more competitive rates, but economically it is a good design. Uh, it may have outdone its purpose for the amount of time that is running because it does not give to orchestrators default incentives to cater for the long-term health of the network. So if we contemplate uh, some different designs in the between, and this is just an idea, I'm not saying that it's perfect. I think we can have better results, but we definitely need to do something for that in the long term.
I think I missed there was I did get interviewed in that inflation piece that I think Pixel Field was doing, but I didn't see them do a presentation. I think it rolled up the Doug's presentation perhaps. Unfortunately, there was like a Wi-Fi outage in the room, and I didn't see what the final presentation was and the talking points there and how it maps to what you just outlined. But if I'm not mistaken, you're saying raise treasury cap, keep inflation as it is, and use the extra rewards there as a um, subsidy for demand generation.
Uh, Close, not exactly. The idea is change the inflation ratios so that they not only raise the treasury cap but also change the allocation so that it's right now. I don't know the exact numbers. Maybe it's 90% orchestrators, 10% to the treasury or less. So kind of reverse it to 70% to treasury, 30% to allocation with prerequisite that we have established established distribution pipelines for the Treasury LPT, so this can again be spent to the orchestrators. But instead of the orchestrator just receiving passive rewards daily, this time they can just get paid in ETH instead of LPT to do valuable work for the network, which I think it better incentivize the orchestrator for the long term, and it creates more efficiency for the same capital.
Okay, gotcha. I think my characterization is close. Yeah, it's about the same though. Is that in the thread there that the supply incentive discussion?
No, but I can post it on the forum.
Yeah, I mean that would probably be a good place to go
I agree.
and engage the group that's talking it over there. I know there hasn't been a lot of activity the past couple of weeks, but that would be a good place to go and get some feedback.
Totally.
I'm not up to speed on that whole thread, so I'm a little shy to kind of comment what you're saying. Yeah,
I also know
mean,
this is a priority for the foundation, and they have a working group forming on the topic based on a lot of long previous discussion threads, LIP proposals, and some economic modeling as well. Long
Perfect.
story
I
short,
will.
yes, post your suggestions in the forum because they'll all be taken into account.
Thanks, Zach. I will do it there.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I know that inflation has been a conversation for the last year or so. I mean, I guess historically even before that, but I know we're kind of like slowly circling. I feel maybe some shifts, but I know Doug, you just said a working group probably will summarize all that, give the best recommendation as they see it, and we can have a more substantive conversation with all the relevant information. But I know, of course, significant changes to the protocol. Of course, always a big, Herculean effort to get moving, getting buy-in, and having conversations on impacts, and like you said, visualizing economic implications. Doug, are all quite serious. All right. We can come back to the inflation conversation next week as well, or if people want to drop in that thread that Doug posted, that is where a lot of the conversation's been happening as well. So if there's nothing else, we can wrap up for today. But yeah, sorry I missed the summit. Wish I could have been there, but doctor said couldn't go, and happy that everyone's back and safely arrived at their place of residence, and excited for the next phase that we're moving into post summit. Thanks, y'all. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, everyone.
see ya.